I thought paying off their mortgage would finally heal us. My dad snorted. So you think that fixes everything? My mom whispered, you're still a disappointment. I didn't say a word, just slid the letter across the table. 10 minutes later, they both went pale. You paid it off, my dad scoffed, barely glancing up from his mug. So you think that fixes everything? I blinked. My fingers were still wrapped around the edge of the receipt I'd folded so neatly, so carefully, before placing it in the envelope. I hadn't even sat down yet. My mom took a slow sip of tea, then said it, soft, almost gentle, but it cut sharper than anything I'd heard in years. You're still a disappointment. I didn't respond. I didn't flinch. I just reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the letter, and slid it across the table between them. No dramatic speech. No pleas for recognition. No more asking for their approval. They read it in silence. First my dad, his jaw tensed slightly. Then my mom leaned over. Her lips parted when she got to the second line. And then, they both went pale. But you want to know how we got here? Why someone would spend 6 years paying off the mortgage on a house they weren't even welcome in. Why someone like me, the selfish one, the ungrateful son, the failure, would break his back for parents who never missed a chance to remind him how much of a burden he was. I used to think that love meant sacrifice. That if I gave enough, maybe one day they'd finally say it, we're proud of you. But now I realize they were never waiting for me to be good enough. They were waiting for me to be useful. And the day I stopped being useful, they kicked me out. It wasn't dramatic. It was cold. Efficient. My sister called a family meeting, one I wasn't even told about until the last minute, and when I walked in, she was already seated at the head of the table like a judge ready to deliver a sentence. You don't belong in this family, she said, arms folded. You've always been a problem. My mom didn't even look up from her cup. She's right. And my dad? He muttered, maybe it's better this way, then kept scrolling through his phone. No one stopped me when I walked out that night. No one even asked me where I'd go. They didn't care. But the mortgage? I kept paying it anyway. Why? Because I wanted them to see. To finally see. I thought if I paid off their house, I'd prove them wrong. That I wasn't the failure they always said I was. That I was the one holding everything together, even after they cut me out. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. Because when I handed them that letter, the one that would flip everything, all they saw was their control slipping away. And for the first time in my life, they were afraid. They say time heals all wounds. I say time teaches you who keeps cutting. I was 23 when I started paying their mortgage. I had just gotten my first real job, mid-level operations at a logistics company. Nothing flashy, but it came with benefits and a steady paycheck. I still remember the call. Your father had a little setback, my mom had said. Work slow. We might fall behind on the house if we're not careful. She made it sound temporary. Like it was just for a few months. Like it was no big deal. Of course, I said. I can help. And just like that, I took on the first payment. Then the next. Then the one after that. That was 6 years ago. 6 years of wiring thousands a month into a joint account, just until things stabilized. 6 years of giving up vacations, new clothes, birthday plans, even dating, because who wants to explain to someone you're 30 and still covering your parents' house? They never missed a chance to remind me how grateful they were. At least at first. You're doing the right thing, Mom would say, smiling just enough to make me forget how hard it was. You're finally pulling your weight, Dad once added. And just like that, pulling my weight, I became the unspoken third provider in the house. The son who was doing his duty. But it was never just the mortgage. It was groceries when the fridge mysteriously went empty. It was my sister's wedding deposit when her fiancé accidentally maxed out his credit card. It was their car repairs, their heating bill, their dog's vet surgery. And every time I tried to set a boundary, they twisted it. You're being selfish, my mother would say. You think you're better than us? My dad would sneer. Even my sister joined in. If you didn't want to help, you shouldn't have offered. But here's the thing. I never offered. Not really. I just said yes because that's what you do when you're trying to earn love that always felt just out of reach. You see, I was the accident. The child. Born 8 years after my sister, 5 after my brother, both of whom were praised and worshipped like trophies. My brother was the athlete, the golden boy with the scholarship and the cocky grin. My sister was the social queen, married young, Instagram perfect, and dramatic enough to sell her own life story as a Netflix mini-series. Me? I was the spare. The one who should be grateful we didn't terminate. I overheard my mom say that once, when she thought I wasn't listening. And maybe that's why I tried so hard, paid so much, shut up, and kept going. I thought if I worked harder, they'd see me, maybe even love me. Instead, they saw me as useful, a tool, a piggy bank. Things started to shift the day I asked them for a favor. Not even a big one. I had just gotten out of the hospital after an unexpected surgery. My insurance covered most of it, but I was out of work for weeks. Rent was piling up. I dipped into my savings to keep paying their mortgage. So I called. Hey, I know this is awkward, but do you think you could help me cover part of next month's rent? Just for 1 month. I'll catch up after. Silence. Then my dad actually laughed. You make more than we ever did. What happened to all your savings? I've been helping you for years. Don't guilt trip us, my mom snapped. We never asked for this. You offered. I sat there, stunned. I offered because you said you'd lose the house. We would have figured it out, she said coldly. You chose to get involved. That's on you. That night I couldn't sleep. Not just because of the physical pain, the stitches still fresh across my side, but because for the first time, I really saw them. Not as struggling parents. Not as victims of circumstance. But as people who saw kindness as weakness. Who weaponized guilt. Who measured love in dollars. I started noticing other things too. My sister, who once sobbed about needing help paying her car note, posted a picture at a rooftop brunch, champagne, designer bag, tagged location in Miami. My dad, who claimed he was barely getting by, bought a new sound system for the living room. And when I brought it up, you're keeping score now, he snapped. That's disgusting. We're family. No, they were users. And I was done being used. But the moment everything snapped, the true breaking point, was at a family dinner a few weeks later. My sister had just walked in, beaming, showing off her new engagement ring from her second fiancé in 4 years. My parents clapped. Everyone gushed. I sat quietly, sipping my water. Then she turned to me. By the way, she said, with a smirk, Mom told me you're still paying the house. That's cute. Everyone laughed. I didn't. My dad looked at me and grinned. It's about time you did something useful. That's when I stood up. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw my glass or slam my fist. I just looked each of them in the eye and said, I just made the final payment last week. The house is officially yours. There was a pause. A flicker of something, confusion? Gratitude? Then my mother spoke. Well, I guess that means your job here is done. I blinked. My job? You mean my life, I said quietly. Because that's what I gave you. She didn't respond. So I nodded. And I started planning. I didn't sleep the night before. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every insult, every guilt trip, every fake smile I forced just to survive another year of their twisted idea of family. My stomach churned, not from nerves. I wasn't scared anymore, but from fury held back too long. I had the letter printed. 2 lines. That's all it took. I folded it, sealed it in a blank envelope, and tucked it into my coat. When I showed up the next morning, my mother was already setting the table. Dad was in his usual spot by the window, reading the paper like it wasn't 2025, and that habit hadn't died a decade ago. Oh, Mom said without looking up. You actually came. I said nothing. Just placed a box of pastries on the counter like I always did. Old habits. I didn't think you'd bother, my dad muttered. After all, you've done your good deed. That's how they saw it, like I dropped off a package. Not 6 years of my life. Sit, Mom said sharply. We need to talk. I pulled out a chair and sat. Calm. Controlled. My sister arrived 5 minutes later, sunglasses on indoors like she was hiding from the truth. The moment she walked in, she smirked. So, is this your redemption tour? I looked at her. No. This is the finale. Dad folded his paper. We got your little message about the mortgage. So you paid it off. Great. You want a parade? No, I said, reaching into my coat. I want clarity. And then, I placed the envelope on the table. No one moved. What's this now? My mom asked, suspicious. Go ahead, I said. Open it. Dad grabbed it. Tore the seal. Read the first line. Then the second. His face didn't just drop, it collapsed. Mom leaned over and read it too. Silence. Then she whispered, you wouldn't dare. Oh, I said, locking eyes with her. I already did. You're bluffing, my sister snapped. That's just more of your melodramatic crap. You sure? I asked. Because you might want to talk to the bank. Or the county clerk. Or the lawyer who processed the transfer. What transfer? Dad's voice was low, tight. I smiled, not out of cruelty, but out of liberation. I signed the deed over. Not to you. Not to her. To the one person who never asked me for anything. Mom paled. You gave away our house? She hissed. No, I said. I gave away my house. Because that's what it was. Legally. For the past 2 years. My sister blinked. Wait, what? I didn't just pay off the mortgage, I continued. I refinanced the whole thing in my name. You couldn't even qualify anymore with your credit. I was tired of covering for you. So I made it official. You stole it. Mom barked. You tricked us. I laughed. No. I paid for it. Every month. Every cent. While you shamed me, insulted me, and called me a disappointment over Sunday dinner. Dad stood up. This is betrayal. No, I said, standing too. This is boundaries. My mother looked like she'd been slapped. You think this makes you better than us? No, I said softly. I think it makes me free. Then I turned to my sister. You want to know where you'll live now that the house is in someone else's name? Ask your ex-husband. He has more dignity than all three of you combined. He's the one I signed it over to. What? She gasped. Yup. He's putting it in trust for the kids. The ones you never think about when you're too busy drinking and playing victim. She lunged at me, but Dad grabbed her. You ruined us. Mom screamed. No, I said, walking toward the door. I stopped you from ruining me. My father pointed at me, face red with rage. If you walk out that door, I'll be the same son I've always been to you, I said calmly. Gone. Unwanted. Unloved. But finally, free. And then I left. For the first time, no one followed. No guilt. No fake tears. Just stunned silence and the sound of the door clicking shut behind me. When I closed that door behind me, I thought I'd feel guilt. Instead, I felt light. Like someone had finally cut the rope I'd been dragging for years, a rope tied to expectations, shame, and debts I never actually owed. I drove home with the windows down, air rushing in like I was breathing for the first time. My phone buzzed constantly in the passenger seat, lighting up with Mom, Dad, unknown number, golden child, sister. I didn't answer. Not that day. Not the next. The silence on my end made them lose their minds. By Tuesday, my sister was posting vague threats on Facebook about thieves in the family and people who bite the hand that feeds. I almost laughed at that one. Feeds? Please. Then came the text from Dad. You better fix this. I swear to God, we'll take you to court. So I sent him a photo. It was a picture of the deed transfer, notarized, sealed, and signed over to a trust in the names of my sister's kids. His grandkids. Beneath it, I wrote. Tell the judge why giving your grandchildren a home is illegal. I'll wait. He didn't reply. Then, a week later, the real bomb dropped. Mike texted me. Mike, my sister's ex-husband. The only decent man to ever walk into that family and survive it. She's losing it. Tried to change the trust. Already called 3 lawyers. I replied, she won't win. It's locked tight. His answer. I know. That's why I want to thank you. That one got me. Nobody in my family had ever said thank you, not once. Not for paying the mortgage, not for bailing them out, not even for giving up my youth to play family banker. I stared at that message for a long time. And then something in me healed. 2 weeks later, I got a knock on my door. It was Mom. She looked smaller than I remembered. Same expensive coat, same tight bun, same pursed lips, but none of the power she used to carry like a weapon. Can we talk? She asked. I crossed my arms. About. Her eyes darted behind me, like maybe she expected me to invite her in. I didn't. She sighed. We didn't mean what we said. We were angry. Confused. No, I said. You meant every word. And you said it more than once. Don't backpedal now. Your sister's not eating, she said. She barely speaks. She says you humiliated her. She humiliated herself, I snapped. For years. To everyone. But I was the only one who called her out. She says she's scared. She might lose custody if she looks unstable. Maybe she shouldn't have mocked the only person keeping her afloat. Silence. Then Mom finally asked the question I'd been waiting for. Why'd you give the house to Mike? I stared at her. Because he's the only one who's never lied to me. Because he showed up to every one of your dinners and looked just as uncomfortable as I felt. Because when I signed that last check and asked myself who deserved something good, he was the only one who came to mind. Her eyes welled up. You're still my son. No, I said. I was your investment. And the second I stopped paying out, you tried to write me off. She reached out to touch my arm. I stepped back. You're not welcome here, I said softly. Not until you apologize. Not until you stop twisting love into a transaction. I was just trying to hold this family together. No, I said. You were trying to keep control. And with that, I closed the door again. The fallout didn't stop. My brother, who'd stayed quiet all these years, finally texted me. I always knew you were different. Wish I had your spine. I didn't respond. Mike called again. He said he was meeting with a financial planner to protect the house long term. He asked if he could include my name somewhere on the paperwork, out of respect. I told him no. You don't owe me anything, I said. It's theirs now. That's all that matters. He paused, then said the one sentence I never thought I'd hear from anyone in that circle. I wish you were their father instead of me. That one wrecked me, not out of ego, but because I realized something. All these years, I thought I was weak for not being loved. But really, I was just surrounded by people too broken to give it. The day I moved into my new place, small, quiet, all mine, I unpacked one box. Inside it were 3 things. The first mortgage receipt I ever paid. A photo of me at 16, standing behind my parents while they smiled at my sister's graduation. The notarized deed, the one with my signature, and the kids' names on it. I framed it, not out of pride, but as a reminder that I don't have to keep setting myself on fire to keep other people warm. That love doesn't look like sacrifice. That freedom? Sometimes it comes in the form of saying, I owe you nothing. Some mornings I still wake up and expect my phone to buzz with another demand. Can you cover the electric bill? Your sister's car broke down. Your mother's feeling stressed. Send flowers. But then I roll over, and there's only silence. Peaceful, heavy silence. My new place is small. Just 1 bedroom, 2nd floor walk-up, creaky floors, and a leaky faucet that no landlord ever seems in a rush to fix. But it's mine. Fully mine. No strings. No silent expectations. No one knocking on my door asking what I've done for them lately. And I swear, even the air feels different. Cleaner. Sharper. Like freedom. The funny part? I thought I'd feel guilt. I thought I'd lie awake wondering if I'd gone too far, if I'd been too harsh, if maybe, just maybe, they were right about me. But guilt never came. Not after what they said. Not after what they did. Not after the way they twisted love into a loan I could never repay. No. What came was clarity. Clarity that my worth was never tied to how much I gave. That setting a boundary doesn't make you cruel. That you can love someone, even your parents, even your sister, and still walk away when loving them means destroying yourself. That was the hardest lesson. Because for years, I thought endurance was love. That absorbing the blows, sacrificing my joy, always saying yes, that was what made me loyal. What made me good. But now, I think being good means knowing when to stop the cycle. Being good means choosing truth over comfort. And sometimes, being good means leaving. I don't talk to them anymore. Not my sister. Not my father. Not even my mother. The last message I got from her was 2 months ago. A voice note. I don't even know why I played it. She sounded tired. Slower than usual. There was no anger in her voice this time. Just bitterness. We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us? You were supposed to make us proud. I didn't respond. But I did whisper something to myself after I deleted it. You never gave me anything. And I'm done repaying a debt that was never mine. Mike and I still talk. He sends me photos sometimes of the kids running in the backyard, climbing the tree I used to mow around when I was 16. There's a swing hanging from one of the branches now. He built it himself. I tell them their uncle gave them this house, he said one day. That he believed they deserved a place to grow up safe. I didn't know what to say. Just stared at the picture of 2 kids laughing on the porch. I once thought I'd die inside. I still don't think of myself as a hero. Heroes wear capes. I just wore exhaustion and smiled through it. But maybe, just maybe, I broke a pattern. Maybe I was the first one in our family to say, no more. Maybe that's worth something. A few weeks ago, I ran into someone from high school, a guy named Jared I barely remembered. We grabbed coffee, talked about the good old days that weren't actually that good. And then out of nowhere, he said, you were always the quiet one. People underestimated you. I smiled. They still do. He laughed. They shouldn't. That stuck with me. Because for the first time in my life, I don't feel small, or forgotten, or desperate to be seen. For the first time, I feel solid, rooted, like I belong to myself. Sometimes people ask, would you ever forgive them? And here's the truth. I don't know. Forgiveness isn't always about letting someone back in. Sometimes it's just about letting the weight go. I don't hate them. I don't wish them harm. I just don't owe them space in my life anymore. And maybe that's what forgiveness looks like for me. Not revenge. Not reunion. Just distance. Peaceful, unshakable distance. So what's next? Nothing dramatic. I'm learning to cook. Badly. I go for long walks without headphones, just listening to the world. I'm reading again. Sleeping through the night. I even booked a trip. My first real vacation. No guilt. No strings. And yesterday, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single line, typed out. We were wrong about you. No name. No apology. Just that. I stared at it for a long time, then folded it, slid it into a drawer, and smiled. Because I didn't need their apology. I already had what they never gave me. Self-respect. Freedom. And finally, peace.